we have another point to talk about for Ducati, and
right.
I'm gonna bring up Dovizioso here. Did either of you watch the post race press comments or listen to it?
I did not.
No.
Yes.
Yes, perfect. So Dovizioso commented how he was helped, like he told Petrucci at the beginning of the season in the preseason that he had it, that he could win a race, he could make a difference in this championship. And a lot of people kind of questioned back then, like what the hell Dovizioso was doing, right? Like normally you help your teammate a little bit, but you don't help them that much, right? You don't want them to beat you. I think Dovizioso has a ploy here, and I'm going to relate it to the championship. I think he's trying to train his second in command to help take points off of Marquez. Do you think this is a good tactic? Do you think that's actually what Dovizioso did?
I mean, I wasn't, obviously I wasn't privy to their actual conversation.
Well, you don't stalk them that much. Come on, Kev.
Right, but I mean, Michael Jordan said that he couldn't have done anything without Scottie Pippen. Like, but we knew, come on, come on.
Yeah.
Right? Like at some point, like you build the confidence of your troops, right? I mean, I'm not exactly sure if there was a ploy there or if it's just like straight up honesty, but I definitely think that he says like, hey man, you could be in this. You could be in this fight. Like, I definitely think the Ducatis are more of a team in spirit than any other teams. Like Rossi and Maverick aren't like, we can do this, man. We just got to band together. Like
They
it's
don't
not
even
the
agree on
same.
what's wrong with the M1.
Right, exactly. But I think that when you look at Ducati, Petrucci, Dovizioso, I think the idea that Dovi is playing him up to give him a little boost of confidence, saying, hey, you can be there. Because what was the remarks that were said afterwards that it's a weight off his shoulder? Like Chibati said, like, it's a weight off his shoulder. Like, we actually expect him to do really well now because he had so many not so many, but he had a couple of near wins and some heartbreakers, and to finally get that win and in such a satisfying, clear-cut manner, like we said, there's no fake asterisks. That's just I won the race. Like I won that race under ideal circumstances for everyone. Like his ability for self-belief. I mean, Dovi needs Petrucci to believe in himself because what he needs is a guy who's got nothing to lose be there, and then also knowing that like, hey, if you take me out, you're out of a job next year.
Well,
Don't matter if
actually,
you won, if you know what I mean.
and that worked at Le Mans. He specifically said that after the race, that he was just kind of thinking about like he could have tried something, but he knew that the contract wasn't in the bag yet, and Dovizioso was right there. And we'd seen what happened to Iannone.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
Well,
you can be as Italian as all hell. I mean, that guy's so Italian. He's got his own cologne. So he's got his own cologne. He's as Italian as it gets, and they still sacked him because of that crash. So for Petrucci, I think, hey man, I got you this win. Like, let me loose.
Do you think Dovizioso is doing a disservice to his championship then by losing these 5 points this round?
He lost to Marquez anyway, and with progressive points, he'd be if Petrucci hadn't have won. And he'd be farther back if he went 1-2 instead of 2-3.
Oh, that is true. Sorry, 4
So
points,
no,
and it would have been
his
5.
championship is better. The only thing, I mean, obviously, if Petrucci had not won this race and he had if he had under some kind of team orders allowed Dovizioso to get second, Dovi would be farther back.
Yeah.
By a couple of points.
Dennis, what do you think about this? This team structure here, it's something that we don't really see in GP that often, and it's kind of interesting to hear even that Dovizioso was saying he's helping Danilo train better.
I kind of believe it. I mean, I kind of believe there's that respect between the two of them. In some ways, they're different but the same. Where Dovizioso isn't really like all the other. I know we don't use this term anymore, but all the other aliens, he's still kind of like the more relatable of the fast guys, and even though Petrucci is from a different cut from a different cloth, he's also relatable. So I think there's that mutual respect between the two of them, not just because they're fellow countrymen, but because they're not like the other prima donnas, so to speak, that Kevin was referring to. So
So
I
it's
kind of believe, I
the
believe it.
underdogs helping each other out?
Uh, Underdogs are just, because you have to remember that Dovizioso at one point he was like HRC was only reluctant to retain him. That was almost a disrespect, like
No, it
he was
was.
kind of
There was
devalued.
no reluctance. It was I
But
have a lawyer and a contract. Like, you better
right,
keep me on this bike.
right. But that's the point. Is Dovizioso knows what it's like to have to work to get to where he's at, and I'm sure he recognizes that with Petrucci. And I have to believe that he sincerely wants to foster it instead of having some kind of a malicious intent behind it. If he could benefit from it, because Petrucci can take championship points away from his competition, great. But apart from that, I do believe it's a genuine and sincere effort to and a show of respect to his teammate. This is probably like the purest team we've seen in a while, if ever, in the modern era of GP.
I mean, yeah, that is what Kev just said. Like, that they're actually a team. It's not
Yeah,
just a collection of
I
dudes that
think
want to beat each other.
I
yeah.
think it's they're a team in a way we haven't seen, where they understand that neither of them can beat Marc Marquez. They know that they can't. And Ducati, no matter how good their bike is, Marc Marquez's talent makes up for it. Like, at some point, there's the band together. We have to be a team, like an actual team,
Yeah.
not a team in name where we ride under the same banner, but an actual team. Like, we have to help each other to do
Yeah.
this. Like, the only way. And if Dovi were to win the championship, it's like, Petrucci shares in that to some degree.
Hmm.
Like, we have to slay the beast. You know what I mean? Like, we have to band together. Like, we have to, like, combine our houses. Like, you can't. It's not. It's an individual sport, and it's been hyper individualized for a while now. And I think you just have two super down to earth guys surrounded by, or led by a guy who was brought in to win them a championship through engineering, and said, okay, like, we have to close the skill gap. And the way we're going to do that is through, like, combining our efforts, like the sum of our parts.
Actually, that actually just made me think that even last year, the Ducati wasn't this team, right? Like, Jorge Lorenzo was the outlier at Ducati in that he probably
Right.
wasn't in on the team, but there was no mutual respect. Like Dennis said, there was definitely no helping each other train between Dovizioso and Lorenzo. And then they get to these European rounds and they have the 3-rider crash between them two and Danny Pedrosa, right? There wasn't that, like Danilo checking up at Le Mans and making sure to not take out Dovizioso. And had that happened last year, the championship would have been a little tighter.
Right, and there's no way that Dovi looked at Jorge the same way, because it was like, oh, you're the guy they brought over to do what they think I couldn't. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you're the guy who they brought over to, like, Dovi signed with Ducati when they still sucked, when they were still terrible and it wasn't good, and he did all the grunt work for years. He did all the grunt work to get that bike to where it was, and then they bring over some fucking the prima donna of all prima donnas, man. You know what I mean? Talking about Scarf Madonna over here, and it's like,
Scarf
Scarface.
right. And there's going to be resentment there. Whereas Danilo and Dovizioso are more like, man, like, start from the bottom, now we're here. Like, good times. Like, they're saying the Italian version of, like, the Good Times theme song. You know what I'm saying? Like, these guys, that is their team. It's like Kevin Durant going to the Warriors. That's not his team. You know what I mean? He came over, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's not the same. It's like A-Rod going to the Yankees. That was still Derek Jeter's team. That was still Mariano Rivera's team. Like, the idea that they were a team last year is not the same as it was this year. This year, it's truly a team, like, in the real sense. Like, we're combining our efforts. I'm going to help you. You're going to help me. You see it in qualifying and practice and stuff. They're helping each other out. And it's fucking sweet. Someone's got to be the first to say, hey, the teammate is not the guy I have to beat first. The teammate's the guy I got to have finish right next to me.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what needs to happen. So let's round this point out then. do you think Danilo is going to be able to help Dovizioso take points off of Marquez this season? Like, he's already got one, as Kev points out. He's taken 1 point off of Marquez for Dovizioso. Do you think he gets like another 10? It would kind of imply that, it doesn't imply. Danilo, therefore, must finish in front of Marquez at some point.
Well, we already saw the unthinkable. Marquez not win at Coda. Right?
Touche.
We've already seen the chinks in the armor with the shoulder and all of that stuff. And Danilo's got nothing to lose. He's not fighting for a championship. He's just fighting to beat Marquez.
And
it's like you got one job, bro. You got one job. Beat Marquez.
It's a pretty hard job, though.
Right, but you only have one. Like, it might be a hard job, but at least you know what it is.
I suppose.
Yeah,
you
don't have to beat him every time. Point. You don't have to beat him. Remember, who was that guy that guarded Jordan, and Jordan only had like 35 points, and they're like in the finals. And he's like, "Do you think?" I think I did a pretty good job. I held him to 30.
Had 35 points.
He only had 30 points or whatever it was, right? Like, he doesn't have to beat him every time. He just has to beat him sometimes.
That would, if Petrucci can reduce Marquez's point haul by like 20%, that'd be phenomenal.
Or 10% or whatever, you know what I mean? They've had times they went down to the last race, or just be someone else he's looking for. Because what have we said about Marquez? Like, I'm not trying to deny his talent or deny his ability. He's clearly the best of the generation. He's probably going to go down one of the greatest of all time. But he's not exactly fighting a murderer's row of people, despite the this is the greatest generation ever. I don't think so. It's not any more talented than any other generation. He's not fighting. He's fighting like an over-the-hill Valentino, a head case Vinales, and
a head case Lorenzo.
And a head case Lorenzo. He's, right. Danny, a broken-ass Danny, no Casey Stoner. Like none of those people. Like, he's not. So what I mean is he's only really had to worry about one guy, Dovi, for like the last 3 years. And I love Dovizioso, but he's not exactly the world beater. And now at least if we start piling up the people he has to worry about.
Yeah, sure.
Like make him expend mental energy at a variety of people, not just like we've said before, like when Jorge Lorenzo, remember that year Danny Pedrosa won like 7 races in 2012, and it was like, doesn't matter because Jorge only has to come in second.